Before we begin this incredible journey, I need to ask for your help. We're so close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and hitting that milestone in the next 15 days will unlock financial support that will allow us to keep creating these stories you love. Every subscription matters. Every share helps. If you enjoy these epic tales of courage and transformation, please hit that subscribe button right now. Help us reach our goal so we can continue bringing you more magical stories. Your support means everything to us. Now, let's dive into today's adventure. The Royal Griffin Sanctuary stood at the edge of the capital city, a massive compound of reinforced stone and enchanted barriers where the kingdom's most dangerous magical creatures were kept. Not for display or study, but for control. Griffins, dragons, phoenixes, any creature too powerful to roam freely, was captured and contained here, their wildness broken, their magic suppressed, until they could serve the crown as weapons or symbols of royal authority. It was a place of cruelty, disguised as necessity, and 17-year-old Era hated every stone of it. She had worked there for 3 months, assigned to the sanctuary as punishment for her designation. Omegas in the capital were given only 2 paths: bond with an alpha of the crown's choosing, or serve in positions no one else wanted. Era had refused every bonding offer, had insisted she deserved the right to choose her own fate, and so the magistrate had sent her here to clean cages and haul feed and witness daily the breaking of magnificent creatures. The work was hard and dangerous. More than 1 Omega had been killed by a creature lashing out in pain or rage. But Era preferred it to the alternative. At least here, the only thing trying to control her was circumstance, not a bonded mate who would own her body and soul. On this particular morning, the sanctuary was in chaos. A new griffin had been captured in the northern mountains, a massive male with feathers of midnight black and eyes like molten gold. The royal mages had spent 3 days trying to subdue him with binding spells and compliance enchantments, but nothing worked. He remained wild, furious, attacking anyone who came near his cage. "We will have to destroy it," Ira heard the head mage say as she swept the corridor outside the griffin's cell. "If it cannot be tamed, it serves no purpose. A wild griffin is too dangerous to keep." "Give it 1 more day," another mage argued. "Griffins this size and power are rare. If we can break it, the king will have a formidable weapon." "Very well, 1 more day, but if it is still wild by tomorrow morning, we put it down." Era's hands tightened on her broom. She knew she should not care. The griffin was a dangerous creature. If it could not be tamed, it would likely kill someone eventually. Destroying it was practical, logical, the right decision by all measures of sense and safety. But she had seen the griffin's eyes, had seen the intelligence there, the awareness, the soul that understood exactly what was being done to it. This was not some mindless beast. This was a sentient being, trapped and tortured, facing death because it refused to surrender its freedom. She understood that feeling intimately. When her shift ended and the mages departed for their evening meal, Era did something incredibly foolish. She approached the griffin's cage. The creature was magnificent even in captivity, nearly 12 feet tall at the shoulder, with the body of a lion and the head and wings of an eagle, its black feathers gleaming with an iridescent sheen that suggested deep magic. Chains wrapped around its legs and neck, inscribed with runes that glowed with suppressive energy. The griffin lay in the center of its cage, its breath labored, its body covered in wounds from where it had fought against its restraints. "Hello," Era said softly, keeping her distance from the bars. "I know you probably do not understand me, but I wanted to tell you that I am sorry. Sorry for what they have done to you. Sorry for what they will do tomorrow if they cannot break you." The griffin's golden eyes opened and fixed on her. Intelligence blazed in that gaze, along with pain and fury and something that might have been despair. "For what it is worth," Era continued, her voice barely above a whisper, I think you are right to resist. I think freedom is worth fighting for, even when the fight seems hopeless. I refuse to submit too, and they sent me here as punishment. But I would make the same choice again. Some things are worth suffering for. The Griffin's eyes narrowed, studying her intently. Then, shockingly, it spoke. Not with a voice exactly, but directly into her mind, the way powerful magical creatures sometimes could. You are Omega. I can smell it on you. Yet you speak of freedom and choice as if you believe you deserve such things. Era's breath caught. She had not expected the Griffin to be able to communicate. I do believe it. I know what society says about Omegas, about our place, about our purpose. But I believe we deserve more than what we are given. They will punish you for that belief, the Griffin said. They will break you or discard you. I have watched them do it to others. This sanctuary is where they send creatures who will not submit. They break us or kill us. There is no third option. There should be, Era said fiercely. There should be a world where beings like us, who want only to be free, are not hunted and caged and destroyed for refusing to surrender. The Griffin was silent for a long moment. Then, what is your name, small Omega who speaks of freedom? Era, she said. And you? I have not had a name in your language, the Griffin replied. Among my kind I'm called Stormwing that breaks chains, but that is more title than name. You may call me what you wish. Storm, Era decided. I will call you Storm, because you are like a tempest, powerful and uncontainable, and refusing to be controlled. Storm, the Griffin repeated, seeming to taste the name. I accept this naming. Now, Era who speaks of freedom, tell me true. Why do you come to speak with me? What do you gain from offering comfort to a creature who will be dead by morning? I gain nothing, Era admitted. I came because I could not bear the thought of you dying alone, with no one to witness your resistance, no one to say that your fight mattered. Even if the world does not see, even if history does not record it, I want you to know that at least one being recognized your courage. Storm's eyes blazed brighter. You are either the bravest or the most foolish creature I have ever encountered. Possibly both. Definitely both, Era said with a sad smile. Wisdom and I have never been close companions. Come closer, Storm commanded suddenly. I wish to see you properly. Every instinct screamed at Era that approaching the cage was dangerous. Storm was wounded and furious and fully capable of killing her through the bars if he chose. But she had already committed to foolishness tonight. She stepped forward until she was only a few feet from the cage, close enough to see the individual feathers on Storm's head, close enough to see the intricate runes carved into the chains that bound him. Storm studied her intently, his gaze moving over her face, her small frame, her posture that was carefully neutral, trained to show no challenge or aggression. You are younger than I thought, he observed. Still barely more than a child by your species measure, yet you carry yourself as one who has suffered much. Omegas learn suffering early, Era said quietly. We are taught from childhood that we are lesser, that our purpose is to serve, to submit, to bear children for alphas who view us as property. Those who resist that teaching, who insist on their own worth, are punished. I have been punished my entire life for refusing to believe I am worthless. You are not worthless, Storm said, and there was conviction in his mental voice. I have existed for 300 years. I have met countless beings of every species and designation. Worth is not determined by what society assigns you, but by your own courage, your own choices, your own refusal to be diminished. By that measure, small Era, you have more worth than most. Tears pricked at Era's eyes. She had never heard those words before, had never been told she had value beyond her biological function. Thank you, she whispered. That means more than you know. I also have not heard such words, Storm admitted. Griffins are seen as beasts to be controlled or weapons to be wielded. Never as beings with thoughts and feelings and desires of our own. You see me as I am. That is a rare gift, and I treasure it." They were quiet for a moment, Omega and Griffin, two prisoners of different kinds, finding unexpected kinship in their shared resistance to subjugation. "The runes on your chains," Era said, studying them more closely. "They glow when you struggle. Are they what prevents you from breaking free?" "Yes," Storm confirmed. "They are binding spells, very old, very powerful. They suppress my magic, weaken my body, prevent me from shifting to my full power. Without them, I could break these bars easily. With them, I am helpless." "What if they were damaged?" Era asked slowly, an idea forming. "What if the runes were disrupted?" "Ah, the spells would fail," Storm said, interest sparking in his voice. "But they are woven by the royal mages themselves. Only magic more powerful than theirs could break them." "Or something very mundane that they did not think to protect against," Era said. She looked around the corridor, ensuring they were still alone, then reached into her pocket and pulled out the small knife she used for cutting rope and opening feed bags. What if someone simply scratched the runes, broke the physical inscriptions? Would that work? Storm's eyes widened. It might. If enough of the runes were damaged, the spell could destabilize, but to reach them, you would need to enter my cage. And I am wounded and in pain, and my control is not what it should be. I might hurt you without meaning to." "You will not hurt me," Era said with certainty she did not fully understand. "I trust you, Storm." "You should not," Storm said, but there was warmth in his voice beneath the warning. "We have known each other less than an hour." "Yet I do," Era said simply. She moved to the cage door and examined the lock. It was enchanted, designed to open only for authorized personnel. But enchantments required maintenance, and the sanctuary was chronically underfunded. She wedged her knife into the lock mechanism and twisted hard, and after a moment of resistance, the old enchantment failed and the lock clicked open. "Era," Storm said, his voice urgent. "If you do this, if you help me escape, you will be hunted. They will know it was you. You will be punished, possibly executed. Do not throw away your life for mine." "My life is already forfeit," Era said, pulling the cage door open. "I am an Omega who refuses to submit. Eventually they will force me into a bond or find an excuse to kill me. At least this way, my choice means something. At least this way, one of us gets to be free." She stepped into the cage, her small knife held ready, and approached the massive Griffin, who watched her with eyes that held both hope and fear. Storm remained perfectly still as Ira approached, though she could feel the tension in his body, the effort it took for him to control his instincts when he was wounded and desperate. She knelt beside the chain, wrapped around his foreleg, and examined the runes carved into the metal. They were intricate, beautiful in their complexity, each symbol interlocking with the next, in patterns that spoke of years of magical study and practice. Era knew nothing of magic, but she understood breaking things. She positioned her knife against the deepest groove of the largest rune and began to scratch, dragging the blade across the inscription repeatedly, slowly damaging the careful work. The rune flickered, dimmed, and Storm gasped as some of the suppressive pressure eased. "It works," he breathed. "Keep going." Era worked methodically, moving from rune to rune, scratching and scraping, destroying enchantments that had taken the royal mages hours to create. Her hands cramped, her knife dulled, but she did not stop. As each rune failed, Storm's breathing came easier. Color returned to his eyes. The wounds on his body began to close, his natural healing finally able to function without magical suppression. When Era damaged the final rune on the final chain, the entire spell network collapsed. The chains simply dissolved, turning to rust and falling away. Storm surged to his feet, his wings spreading to their full magnificent span, his body glowing with reclaimed power. He was glorious, terrifying and beautiful and utterly free. "Thank you," Storm said, his mental voice now resonating with strength rather than pain. "Thank you, Era who speaks of freedom. You have given me back my life." "Then use it well," Era said, stepping back toward the cage entrance. "Fly far from here. Find your kin. Live free." But Storm did not move toward escape. Instead, he lowered his head until his beak was level with Era's face, and his golden eyes bore into hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "What do you see when you look at me?" Storm asked. Era did not hesitate. "I see a being of courage and strength. I see someone who refused to surrender even when surrender would have saved his life. I see someone worth saving." "And what do you think I see when I look at you?" Storm asked. Era's eyes dropped. "An Omega, weak and worthless as all Omegas are taught to believe ourselves to be." No," Storm said firmly. "I see a warrior. I see someone with more courage in her small body than most creatures have in their entire existence. I see someone who risked everything to free a stranger because she believed freedom was worth the cost. I see my savior, Ira, and I will not leave without you." Era's head snapped up. "What? No. Storm, you have to go. The mages will be back soon. If they find you free, if they know I helped you, we will both die." "Then we both leave," Storm said simply. "Now. Together." "I cannot ride a griffin," Era protested. "I have no skill, no training, no equipment." "You do not need skill or equipment," Storm said. "You need only to trust me as you claimed you did. Climb onto my back, hold tight, and let me carry you to freedom as you have carried me." "They will hunt us," Era said, but she was already moving toward him, already unable to resist the impossible offer of escape. "Let them hunt," Storm said. "I am free now. My magic is restored, and I am far faster than any creature they can send after us. Climb up, Ira. We are leaving this place of cages and cruelty." Era had never ridden anything in her life, let alone a griffin, but she grabbed handfuls of Storm's feathers and pulled herself onto his back, settling between his wings, her legs gripping his sides. His body was warm beneath her, his feathers surprisingly soft despite their metallic appearance. "Hold very tight," Storm instructed. "This will be sudden." He did not give her time to prepare further. With a powerful leap, he launched himself through the open cage door, into the corridor, and then straight up through the wooden ceiling, smashing through it with sheer force. Ira screamed, both from terror and exhilaration, as they burst out into the night sky, wood and stone raining down around them. Shouts erupted from below. Alarm bells began to ring. She heard the mages calling out, heard the rush of feet and the casting of pursuit spells. But Storm's wings beat with powerful strokes, carrying them higher and faster, and within moments the sanctuary was shrinking below them, the entire capital city spreading out like a map of lights and darkness. "I have you," Storm said through their connection, his mental voice steady and reassuring. "You are safe, Era. I will not let you fall." Higher they climbed, into clouds and cold air, until the city disappeared entirely and there was only sky and stars and the steady rhythm of Storm's flight. Era had never been off the ground before, had never imagined what it would feel like to fly, and the sensation was overwhelming. Terror and wonder mixed together until she could not tell where one ended and the other began. "Where are we going?" she finally managed to ask, her mental voice shaky in their connection. "North," Storm replied, "to the Mistral Mountains, where Griffin kind still lives free. It is 3 days' flight, but we will make it. You freed me, Era, now I free you. Together we will find a place where neither of us has to be caged ever again." They flew through the night, Storm never tiring, his magic sustaining both of them. As dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Era looked back one final time at the realm she was leaving behind. the only home she had ever known, the place that had never wanted her, never valued her, never seen her as anything more than a designation to be controlled. She felt no regret, only relief, and the first stirrings of something she had never truly experienced before. Hope. "Thank you," she whispered to Storm. "Thank you for taking me with you." "Thank you for seeing me," Storm replied, "for recognizing that I was more than a beast to be broken. That recognition saved my life. Carrying you to freedom is the least I can do in return." They flew on through the day and into the next night. Storm would land periodically to rest and hunt, bringing Ira rabbits and mountain birds to eat, finding streams where she could drink. He was gentle with her, patient with her inexperience, careful to ensure she was comfortable and safe. And as they traveled, they talked. Storm told her about Griffin culture, about his life before capture, about the grief of losing his freedom and the joy of reclaiming it. Era told him about growing up Omega, about the constant pressure to submit, about every small rebellion that had led to greater punishments, until finally she had been sent to the sanctuary. "Your kind treats Omegas the way mine would never treat any Griffin," Storm observed on the second night as they rested in a mountain cave. "We have no hierarchy based on designation. Strength is respected, yes, but so is wisdom, creativity, compassion. The idea that someone would be considered worthless simply for being born Omega is alien to us." "It is normal for humans," Era said sadly. "It is all I have ever known." "Then it is time you knew something different," Storm said firmly. "When we reach my clan, you will see. No one there will judge you for your designation. They will judge you for your actions, and your actions have been nothing but brave." On the afternoon of the third day, Storm called out in excitement, "There! Do you see?" Era looked ahead and gasped. The Mistral Mountains rose before them, jagged and beautiful, their peaks lost in clouds, and circling those peaks, dozens of shapes. Griffins, wild and free, living as they were meant to live. Storm called out, a piercing cry that echoed across the mountains. The other Griffins responded, their voices creating a symphony of welcome. They circled closer, examining Storm and his unlikely passenger with curious eyes. "Stormwing that breaks chains," one massive golden Griffin said, her mental voice powerful enough to reach both Storm and Era. "We thought you lost. The elders spoke of your capture. We mourned you." "I was captured," Storm confirmed, "held in chains by human mages who sought to break my spirit and enslave my body. But this small Omega freed me. She risked everything to damage the binding runes, to give me back my power. She is under my protection now, and I have brought her here to live among us, if she wishes, and if the clan will accept her." The Golden Griffin, who Storm explained through their bond was the clan matriarch, studied Era intently. "An Omega who frees a Griffin rather than enslaving one. This is unusual, but if you vouch for her, Stormwing, she is welcome. Any friend of Griffin kind may shelter in our mountains." They landed on a broad plateau, where dozens of Griffins had gathered, creating a loose circle around the newcomers. Era slid down from Storm's back, her legs shaky from 3 days of riding, and found herself surrounded by creatures of legend, each one magnificent and powerful, and regarding her with varying degrees of curiosity and skepticism. "I am Era," she said aloud, then realized she should probably communicate mentally, as the Griffins did. She focused and pushed her thoughts outward, the way Storm had taught her during their flight. "I am Era. I freed Storm because I could not bear to see him caged. I ask nothing in return except perhaps shelter for a time, until I can determine where I should go." "You may stay as long as you wish," the matriarch said. "We have no love for those who cage and break our kind. You showed Storm mercy and courage. That earns you a place here." Over the following weeks, Era learned to live among Griffins. It was strange and wonderful, and nothing like her life before. The Griffins had no hierarchy based on designation, no concept of alpha and omega dominance. They respected skill and courage and kindness. They welcomed her input in discussions. They treated her as an equal. And slowly, carefully, Era began to heal, began to believe that perhaps she was not worthless. That perhaps the problem had never been her designation, but the society that used designation as an excuse for cruelty. She and Storm became inseparable. They hunted together, explored together, existed in comfortable partnership that neither labeled but both valued. And sometimes, on clear nights, they would sit at the edge of the plateau and look south toward the capital, toward the realm that had tried to break them both. "Do you miss it?" Storm asked one such night. "Your world? Your kind?" "I miss what it could have been," Era admitted. "I miss the idea of a home where I was valued. But I do not miss what it actually was. That place only ever brought me pain." "What if you could change it?" Storm asked. "What if you could return, not as an Omega to be controlled, but as something else, something powerful enough to challenge the hierarchy itself?" Era looked at him in confusion. "How? I am still just an Omega. I have no magic, no power, no way to challenge anything." Storm's eyes gleamed with something that might have been mischief or might have been determination. "That is not entirely true. You freed me from binding runes that should have been impossible to break. You rode a griffin for 3 days without training or equipment. You have been accepted by an entire clan of creatures who rarely tolerate humans. You have more power than you realize, Era. You simply need to learn how to wield it." The next morning, Storm took Era to meet the clan's eldest griffin, an ancient creature named Gale that remembers all. He was massive even for a griffin, with feathers that had faded to silver with age, and eyes that held the wisdom of countless centuries. "So you are the Omega who freed Stormwing," Gale said, studying Era with those ancient eyes. "And now he brings you to me, hoping I will teach you what the mages never could. Tell me, small one, why should I share griffin magic with a human?" "Because she is not like other humans," Storm interjected. "She sees us as beings, not beasts. She values freedom above safety. She has the heart of a griffin, even if she was born in human form." "Perhaps," Gale said, "but heart alone does not make one capable of learning griffin magic. That requires a bond, a connection deeper than friendship. It requires what we call wing bonding, where griffin and human merge their essences, share their strengths, become two parts of one whole. Few humans are capable of such bonding. Fewer still survive it." "I want to try," Era said firmly. "If there is a chance I can gain the power to change things, to help other Omegas who suffer as I suffered, then I want to try." Gale looked at Storm. "And you? Do you wish to wing bond with this Omega? Such bonds are permanent. You would be connected for the rest of your lives. Her pain would be yours. Her death would diminish you. This is not a decision to make lightly." "I have already decided," Storm said without hesitation. "Era saved my life when she had every reason to let me die. She risked everything for a stranger. If she is willing, I would be honored to wing bond with her." "Then the choice is made," Gale said. "Tomorrow at dawn, we will attempt the bonding ritual. Rest tonight, both of you. What comes will test you both beyond anything you have experienced." That night, Era could not sleep. She lay in the cave Storm had claimed as his den, staring up at the stars visible through the entrance, and tried to process what she had agreed to, wing bonding, merging her essence with Storm's, becoming something new. "Are you afraid?" Storm asked softly, sensing her restlessness through the connection they already shared. "Terrified," Era admitted, "but also hopeful and determined. I have spent my entire life being told I am weak, worthless, meant only to serve. If this bonding can give me the power to prove them wrong, to show other Omegas that we are capable of more, then any fear is worth facing. You are already strong, Storm said. The bonding will simply make that strength visible to those who refuse to see it otherwise. Dawn came too quickly. Gale led them to a sacred space at the heart of the mountain plateau, a circle of standing stones that hummed with ancient magic. The entire clan gathered to witness, their presence lending power to the ritual. "Stand in the center," Gale instructed. "Stormwing, place your claw over Ira's heart. Ira, place your hand over Storm's. Now close your eyes and open yourselves to each other completely. Hold nothing back. Share everything, every memory, every pain, every joy. Only through complete vulnerability can the bond form." Ira and Storm obeyed. The moment Storm's claw touched her chest and her hand touched his feathered breast, power exploded through them both. Ira gasped as Storm's memories flooded her mind. 300 years of existence, of flight and freedom, of capture and agony, of hope found in the most unlikely place. And Storm experienced Ira's life in return. 17 years of being told she was less than, of fighting just to be seen as a person, of small rebellions and large consequences, of choosing exile over submission, of freeing a Griffin because it was right even when right was dangerous. Their essences began to merge. Ira felt Storm's magic flow into her, vast and wild and overwhelming. She felt her body change, felt power ignite in places that had always been empty. And Storm felt something he had never experienced before. The unique magic that belonged to Omegas alone, suppressed so long it had seemed non-existent, but present all along, waiting for the right catalyst to wake it. The pain was excruciating, every nerve burning, every cell transforming. Ira screamed, and Storm roared, and the assembled Griffins lent their voices to the sound, turning it into a song of transformation rather than just agony. And then, suddenly, it was over. Ira opened her eyes, and the world looked different, sharper, more vibrant. She could see magic itself, flowing through the stones, through the Griffins, through Storm standing before her. And when she looked down at her hands, she gasped. Her skin had taken on a faint iridescent sheen, like Storm's feathers. Her eyes, she could sense without needing a mirror, now held flecks of gold, and most dramatically, from her shoulders extended wings. Not physical wings of feather and bone, but wings of pure energy, visible but ethereal, capable of manifesting or disappearing at will. "The bonding succeeded," Gale breathed, and there was awe in his ancient voice. "A true wing bond. I have not witnessed one in 2 centuries. You are transformed, Ira. No longer simply Omega, but something new. Wing-bonded, blessed by Griffin kind." Ira looked at Storm and saw similar changes in him. His black feathers now held undertones of the colors she associated with Omega magic, soft silvers and deep purples. His eyes held new depth, new understanding. They had merged, and in merging had become more than either was alone. "How do you feel?" Storm asked, his voice now not just in her mind, but part of her mind, their thoughts overlapping in a way that should have been confusing but felt natural. "Powerful," Ira whispered. "For the first time in my life, I feel powerful." Over the next months, Ira learned to wield her new abilities. The wing bond had given her access to Griffin magic, allowing her to fly using her energy wings, to channel wind and storm, to sense emotions and intentions. But it had also awakened the suppressed Omega magic she had carried unknowingly her entire life. She discovered she could heal with a touch, could influence emotions, could create bonds of loyalty and trust. Combined with Storm's power, she was formidable, not as powerful as the royal mages, perhaps, but strong enough to matter. And as her power grew, so did her determination to return to the capital, to challenge the system that had oppressed her and countless others like her. "The Griffins who live here are free," she said to Storm one day as they practiced aerial combat, "but Griffins in the sanctuary are still caged. Omegas throughout the realm are still subjugated. We have found freedom, but what about those who cannot find it themselves?" "You want to go back?" Storm said. It was not a question. He could feel her determination through their bond. "I have to go back," Era corrected. "Not to stay, not to submit, but to show them that there is another way, to free the Griffins still caged, to teach Omegas that they are not worthless, to prove that the hierarchy they have built can be challenged." "It will be dangerous," Storm warned. "They will not welcome you. They will see you as a threat." "I know," Era said, "but I was never safe there anyway. At least now. I have power to defend myself, to defend others. Will you come with me?" Storm's answer was immediate. "Always. Where you go, I go. We are wing-bonded. Your cause is mine." They brought their plan to the clan matriarch, who listened thoughtfully as Ira explained her intentions. "You speak of revolution," the matriarch said when Ira finished, "of challenging power structures that have existed for generations. This will not be easy or quick." "Nothing worth doing ever is," Era replied. "But I cannot live free knowing others suffer. I cannot accept my own escape while leaving the cages intact for the next Omega, the next Griffin, the next being who refuses to submit." The matriarch was silent for a long moment, then nodded. "You have Griffin wisdom in a human heart. That is rare and precious. The clan will support you, not with warriors. We will not wage open war on humans, but with knowledge, with magic, with sanctuary for any you manage to free. Go with our blessing, wing-bonded pair, and may your courage inspire others to remember their own." They flew south toward the capital, two beings who had been meant for cages now soaring free, carrying with them the hope that freedom could spread, that change was possible, that even the most entrenched hierarchies could be challenged when someone was brave enough to stand up. As the capital city came into view, Era felt no fear, only determination. She had been sent to the sanctuary as punishment for refusing to submit. She had freed a Griffin who should have been unkillable. She had wing-bonded and gained powers the royal mages would never understand. And now she was returning, not as a powerless Omega to be controlled, but as something new, something they had no protocols for, something that would force them to confront the lie at the heart of their society, that Omegas were weak. She was about to prove them very, very wrong. They did not attack immediately. Era and Storm circled the capital at a distance, observing, planning. The sanctuary was heavily guarded now, likely in response to Storm's escape and Era's disappearance. They would not be able to simply walk in and free the captured creatures. "We need allies inside," Era said through their bond. "Other Omegas who might be willing to help if they knew help was possible." "How do we find them without exposing ourselves?" Storm asked. Ira thought for a moment, then smiled. "We show them. Not tell them. Show them. Tomorrow is market day. Half the city will be in the central square. What if a wing-bonded Omega and her Griffin partner made an appearance? What if we demonstrated that Omegas can be powerful? That would spread faster than any message we could send. It would also bring every guard and mage in the city down on us," Storm pointed out. "Yes," Era agreed. "So we make it quick. We appear. We demonstrate power. We vanish before they can organize a response. We plant the seed of possibility. Then we wait for it to grow." The next day dawned clear and bright. The market square filled with citizens going about their business, buying and selling, gossiping and bartering. No one looked up. No one expected anything unusual, until Era and Storm descended from the sky like a thunderbolt. They landed in the center of the square, and Ira manifested her energy wings fully, letting them blaze with silver and gold light. Her voice, amplified by Griffin magic, carried to every corner of the square. I am Era, Omega of this city, sent to the royal Griffin sanctuary as punishment for refusing to submit. I was meant to break or die there. Instead, I freed a Griffin. We bonded. And now I have returned to show you all something you have been taught to believe impossible, that Omegas can be powerful, that we are not weak, that we are not worthless, that the hierarchy you accept as natural is nothing but a lie designed to keep you controlled. Shocked silence met her pronouncement. Then chaos erupted. Some people ran in fear, others stared in disbelief. And scattered throughout the crowd, Ira saw what she had hoped for, Omegas looking up at her with expressions of wonder, of recognition, of desperate hope. "She lies," a voice rang out. The royal mages were arriving, led by the head mage himself. "She has been corrupted by the creature, turned against her own kind. She must be captured and cleansed." "I have been freed, not corrupted," Era called back, "and I offer that same freedom to any who want it. Omegas, you are not required to accept bonds you do not choose. You are not required to submit to treatment that breaks you. You deserve dignity. You deserve choice. You deserve to be seen as people, not property." "Enough!" The head mage raised his hands, and binding spells flew toward Era and Storm, but they were ready. Storm's magic met the spells and deflected them. Era channeled Omega power, sending waves of calming energy toward the panicking crowd, preventing stampedes, protecting the innocent from being caught in magical crossfire. "We do not seek war," Era said, locking eyes with the head mage. "We seek only recognition, rights for Omegas, freedom for the sentient creatures you cage. If you grant these things, we can find peace. If you refuse, we will continue to resist. The choice is yours." "The only choice is your surrender," the head mage snarled, preparing a more powerful spell. But before he could cast it, something unexpected happened. An Omega in the crowd, a young woman who had been watching with tears streaming down her face, stepped forward. And then another. And another. Within moments, dozens of Omegas had moved to stand between the mages and Era, their bodies forming a human shield. "No more," one of them said, her voice shaking but determined. "I have watched my sisters be forced into bonds that destroyed them. I have been told my entire life that I am worthless. But if she can be powerful, if she can stand up to you, then maybe we all can. Maybe we deserve better than what you give us." The head mage's face went pale with rage. "Stand aside, all of you, or face charges of treason." "Then charge us," another Omega said. "There are hundreds of us in this city alone, thousands across the realm. You cannot imprison us all. And if you try, if you hurt us for daring to ask for basic dignity, you will prove her point. You will prove that the hierarchy is maintained through violence and fear, not natural order." Era felt tears prick her eyes. She had hoped to inspire, had not expected Omegas to immediately stand with her, to risk themselves. But here they were, finding courage they had not known they possessed, simply because one of their own had shown them it was possible. "We must go," Storm said through their bond. "More mages are coming. We accomplished what we came for. Now we retreat." Era nodded. She addressed the crowd one final time. "To the Omegas who stand here now, you are brave beyond measure. I will return, and when I do, I will bring help. Hold on, resist, remember your worth. Change is coming." She and Storm launched into the sky, and pursuit spells followed them. But they were faster, more agile, and within minutes they had escaped the city's boundaries. Over the next weeks, word of Era's appearance spread through the realm like wildfire. The Omega, who had become wing-bonded, who commanded Griffin magic, who had stood before the royal mages and demanded rights rather than begging for mercy. Some called her a hero, others called her a dangerous radical, but everyone talked about her. And in markets and homes and secret gatherings, Omegas began to whisper to each other. If she could be powerful, could they? If she could resist, should they? If she deserved dignity, did they not deserve the same? The system began to crack. Era and Storm conducted careful raids over the following months. They freed Griffins from the sanctuary, spiriting them north to the free clans. They extracted Omegas from dangerous situations, giving them refuge in safe houses they established throughout the realm. They spread their message of Omega worth and right to choose, and they trained. Any Omega who came to them seeking to learn was taught. Not all could wing bond. That required a very specific connection between human and Griffin, but all could learn to fight, to resist, to recognize their inherent value. All could discover that Omega magic existed, suppressed but not destroyed, capable of manifesting in small ways even without a Griffin bond. The authorities responded with increasing force. Era and Storm were declared enemies of the state. Bounties were placed on their heads. The royal mages developed new spells specifically designed to counter Griffin magic. But for every Omega they captured, 2 more joined the resistance. For every Griffin they killed, 3 more fled south to freedom. The old order was collapsing, slowly but inevitably, because once people glimpsed the possibility of something better, they could not be forced back into accepting the intolerable. A year after Era's first public appearance, the Council of Lords called for negotiations. They claimed it was to discuss the Omega problem, but Era knew what it really meant. They were losing, and they knew it. She agreed to meet, but on her terms. Neutral ground, no weapons, and most importantly, Omega representatives present as equals at the negotiating table. The meeting took place in an ancient temple, abandoned centuries ago when the old gods fell out of favor. Era arrived with Storm and a delegation of 20 Omegas, each one representing a different region, a different story of resistance and courage. The Council of Lords arrived with twice as many people, trying to intimidate through numbers. But their faces showed fear beneath the bluster. They were not accustomed to negotiating with those they considered beneath them. "You have caused chaos throughout the realm," Lord Chancellor Marcus began, encouraging Omegas to refuse their bonds, to abandon their duties, to seek power they were never meant to wield. This cannot continue. "You are right," Era said calmly. "It cannot continue. Omegas cannot continue to be treated as property, cannot continue to be forced into bonds against their will, cannot continue to be told they are worthless. The system you have built is cruel and unjust. It must change." "And if we refuse?" another lord demanded. "Then we continue," Era said simply. "We continue freeing Omegas, continue spreading our message, continue demonstrating that your hierarchy is not natural or inevitable, but a choice you make to maintain power. Eventually, enough Omegas will remember their worth that your system collapses entirely. Or you can choose to adapt now, to reform peacefully, to build something better." "What do you want?" Lord Marcus asked tiredly. "Specifically, what would it take for you to end this rebellion?" Era had prepared for this question. She pulled out a document she and her advisors had spent months drafting. "These are our demands. The right for Omegas to refuse any bond without penalty, legal protection from forced bonding and abuse, the closure of the Griffin Sanctuary and release of all sentient creatures held there, recognition of Omega magic and the right to practice it, representation in government for Omega citizens. These are not negotiable. Accept them, and we have peace. Refuse them, and we continue until you have no choice but to accept." The lords read through the document, their expressions ranging from shock to outrage to resignation. They huddled together, arguing in low voices. Finally, Lord Marcus looked up. "Some of these demands are reasonable. Others would require completely restructuring our society. We need time to consider, to debate, to determine what is possible." "You have 1 month," Era said. "After that we resume operations, and we will not be as gentle as we have been." Every day you delay is another day Omegas suffer under your unjust laws. Choose quickly. The negotiations continued over the following weeks. Not everything Era demanded was granted, at least not immediately. But enough was. Forced bonding was outlawed. Omegas gained legal right to refuse and to leave abusive situations. The sanctuary was reformed, with sentient creatures given the choice to stay or leave freely. It was not perfect. It was not everything, but it was a start. And as word spread of the new laws, as Omegas throughout the realm learned they had rights now, that they could choose their own paths, that one of their own had stood up to power and won, something fundamental shifted in the realm's consciousness. Omegas were people, deserving of dignity, capable of strength, worthy of respect. It had taken a wild Griffin, a desperate Omega, and a bond that should have been impossible. But they had changed the world. On the anniversary of the day, Era had freed Storm from his chains. They stood together on the mountain plateau, looking out over a realm that was different than it had been, better than it had been, though still with work to do. "Do you ever regret it?" Storm asked, "choosing to fight rather than simply living free here with the clan?" Era shook her head. "I could not live free, knowing others were still caged. But Storm, we did it. We actually changed things. Not everything, not perfectly, but we made it better." "You made it better," Storm corrected gently. "I merely provided the means. You provided the courage, the vision, the determination to see it through despite impossible odds." "We did it together," Era insisted, leaning against her wing-bonded partner. "That is the point of all this. Together we are stronger. Omega and Griffin, human and magical being. When we stop seeing hierarchies and start seeing partnerships, we become capable of changing everything." They stood in comfortable silence as the sun set, two beings who had been meant for cages but had chosen freedom instead. And in choosing it for themselves, had helped countless others choose it too. The realm would never be the same. And that was exactly as it should be. The end. This story of courage and transformation is only possible because of viewers like you. We're still working toward our goal of 1,000,000 subscribers in the next 15 days. If this story moved you, if Era and Storm's journey inspired you, please hit that subscribe button right now. Share this video with friends who love epic tales of resistance and hope. Leave a comment telling us what resonated with you. Your support unlocks the financial help we need to keep creating these powerful narratives. Every subscription brings us closer to continuing this channel and bringing you more stories that challenge injustice and celebrate courage. Don't just watch, be part of our community. Subscribe now and help us reach our goal. Together, we can keep these stories alive.